Hi, everybody. Thank you for sticking it out through the first day or the second day of GEWKC. I'm Susan Minto with KC SourceLink and Missouri SourceLink. And I just want to remind you all that they're beyond Global Entrepreneurship Week. We have thousands of events that we highlight on our calendar. So I'll add that into the chat while we're in here, but I want to remind you to go to kcsourcelink.com and look at our calendar for events beyond just this week. And also to remind you that tomorrow, we have trivia tomorrow on Wednesday and bingo on Thursday. So be sure to go back to our platform and sign up for that event. And without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Miss Annie Rector and Miss Adriana Bates, right?
Yes.
Yes. All right, ladies. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Annie. This is Adriana. We are with Third Avenue Events and Clear Mortgage, respectively, and we're going to talk about the two-sector impact, how we pivoted for success during this pandemic.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Really excited about it. And one benefit of being like in the virtual presenting now, at least we're not in a live event and the last one to go before happy hour.
Right.
Because isn't that the worst?
Right.
Like when you're ready to go and everyone's like anxious, it's been a long day. And they're like, all right, let's go drink.
So you guys can have a drink
while you're watching us. How about that?
It's going to make us more fun.
So like Annie already said, my name is Adriana Bates. I am the partner of Clear Mortgage here down in downtown Kansas City. We're located in the Crossroads, which we hosted this amazing live virtual event. And this is Annie.
Yep. And I'm with Third Avenue Events. We're a boutique event planning company located in Leawood. So our email addresses are on this slide so you guys can get in touch with us. I know there's lots of ways to do it, but I would be remiss if I did not tell you that. So we're going to get into a little bit of kind of who we are, how did we meet? Actually, how did we meet?
How did we meet?
It's been like 4 years.
Yeah, we were trying to figure this out before, and this is one really cool thing about GEW and events like this. You meet really cool people that are like-minded.
Right.
Like it was through your cousin.
It was. He introduced us because we have,
you're the same person.
We do. We have a lot in common.
Yeah.
The nice thing and the reason that we're doing this together is because we think that especially during a time like this, it's so important to have a network of people or your inner circle of people that you can go to and say, I'm literally going to lose it if I don't do something and I need you to help me figure out what that is.
And to have sounding boards.
Right.
Just when you are trying to as we go through this, how we shifted, how our businesses had to pivot during this pandemic, to have a sounding board and to be like, guys, this is what I'm thinking. Am I like completely in left field or does it sound like this might work? And occasionally you need someone to give you a push.
You do. Also somebody with ideas who is not living your everyday life, whether that's good or whether that's bad, but can see everything from the outside and says, hey, have you thought about this? And you're like, oh, that's a good idea. I didn't really think about that. But I'll for sure talk about that in a little while.
So point of us rambling about how awesome our friendship is basically get your circle together, keep your entrepreneur circle close, tight, and feel comfortable enough and vulnerable enough, I would say, to be open about some of the struggles that you're having. It'll make you feel so much better as an entrepreneur and less stressed about something.
Well, and we're here to cheer you on. We cheer each other on a whole lot. So if you guys need somebody to cheer you on, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Shoot us a DM.
We're super
whatever
it is. We're hip and we're cool. So contact us somehow.
Anyways, here we go.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Hang on. It's going to be fun. All right. So I am starting.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting me first. I appreciate that.
I'm
so
happy
again,
to do it.
Adriana Bates, I'm partner of Clear Mortgage, which is always funny to say partner because when we get into the story of Clear Mortgage, partner is with my husband. So, which is a whole nother crazy relationship.
We don't have time for that.
Yeah, we don't have time for that. This is not a therapy session. This is to help you guys. So I could totally digress, but I won't. So I have been in the mortgage industry, oh my God, since 2010. Yeah. So I hit my 10-year mark. It's been an amazing ride. And one of the neat things in starting your own business is I am sales through and through. I've always been in the sales role. I've always butted heads with operations. It's just been, which I think in most companies, there's always that, it's the sales fulfillment, whatever verbiage you want to use, that always kind of butt heads. So I've always driven with a sales mentality. And where I think the hardest piece in becoming a business owner is not always leading with that sales hat. Okay. There is a very important critical fulfillment side of most businesses. And that was one of my biggest realizations when we decided to buy out all of our partners, buy out all of our investors, and go on our own and started Clear Mortgage in 2018, is that you have to very quickly identify specific roles. And that's what my husband and I had to do. So now I strongly still run the sales side, and he strongly still runs the operational side. We currently have 15 employees, so we're still considered a very small business. Again, like I said earlier, we're right downtown in Kansas City. However, we do business and are licensed in other states. So we have to manage Kansas, Missouri, Ohio, Florida, and we're adding on slowly but surely, but it's a whole bunch of regulation and paperwork to continue to grow.
Oh, that's great. That's a really good background. And I think that'll set you guys up for Adriana to talk about what her external disruptions are. What happened when COVID hit?
Oh my gosh.
That turned you into, that created a situation where you had to pivot for success. So that's what we're going to set up right now, is what happened to get you to this spot.
Everyone's experience with this pandemic has been different, right? So when it actually hit, so there was that kind of, we heard about it. It was like in January. It started to get a little bit more serious depending on what news you follow.
Right.
In February. For the mortgage industry in specific, it was March 9th. I remember the date. I remember the time where the majority of the shutdowns were happening and the stay-home orders were going into effect. And this is also when the media and the government decided to tell people that you do not have to pay your mortgages. They were talking about forbearance and how this relief was coming.
Oh, yeah.
And for someone in the mortgage industry, that without going into how we make money and how our business flows, we need investors to buy mortgages. Basically, if you watch The Big Short, if you watch Too Big to Fail, it is true. They bundle up mortgages and they sell them on the secondary market. They sell them on Wall Street in these packages, much more regulated now, guys. Okay. This is not about a 2008, 2009 bubble burst. So let's not go there. But my point is, when the media started telling the general public, hey, a form of relief is this thing called forbearance.
Right.
Don't pay your mortgage. All of us in the industry went into a very severe panic, because all of the investors basically said, hey, stop. We are not going to buy any more mortgages until we figure out what's going to happen here. Rates skyrocketed for a bit because the market, everything that happens in the market without going into a whole economic class, our rates changed. And then the feds announced that they were going to basically have the consumer rate at 0%, okay? Which I think what they were doing is to keep the economy moving. They were saying, hey, consumer interest rates are going to be so low to encourage people to spend money, to keep the economy flowing. What that caused was a whole influx of mortgage inquiries, because general consumers don't know when they see the Fed.
I did it. I sent her an email and I was like, hey, our interest rates at 0. Is that real? And she was like,
money?
No, stop.
I was like, I wish you want 0% interest? It's called buying in cash, honey. No, I'm just teasing. But where I'm going with this is, as a business owner, when all of these external disruptors happened in our industry as mortgage, if you guys could see what we are dealing with right now, it's okay. So when we have the external, okay.
Hold on just a second, you guys.
We're in the middle of a presentation. No, there's no one. Who?
Hey guys, we're in the middle of we're in the office, and that's what happened. We had somebody just walk into the office, which is why we're running into that. So we're gonna get this taken care of, and then we're gonna keep going. But Adriana's been talking about the things, the fear that happened, the pandemic. Not only are people afraid of
there's nobody upstairs.
Now that not only are they afraid of the virus and what's happening there, but they're also afraid now of that they're losing their job. Can't get any money for mortgages. They're not going to be able to pay their bills, those kinds of things. And so it's going to be just a second, and then Adriana will be right back, and she'll talk about it a little bit more. Sorry about that. That's real life. This is downtown Kansas City.
Yeah, we're in downtown Kansas City, and someone's just walking in. Okay, so another internal within the company, when a global pandemic is happening, here we are thinking, are people going to buy houses? People are losing jobs. The way that we make money, mortgage in the layman's terms is we lend people money to go buy houses.
Right.
So if people are functioning on a fear, which I think society was we still are.
A lot of people.
Fear-based.
Yep.
What was going to happen to our industry? Was it going to slow down so much that we weren't? My biggest thing as a business owner as well is that we have employees. I want to make sure that their families are taken care of, that we can maintain, are functioning, our capital is still coming in so that we can keep people with their jobs and not have to lay off anybody. So there was that internal struggle. Fortunately, mortgage rates are still at historical lows. So the alternative happened, the converse happened, where we were flooded with so many mortgage inquiries from past clients, from referrals, from partners, and people were still buying homes. I think being stuck in home for so long, people start to realize maybe I don't want to stay in this house.
Right.
This is my...
What you like, what you don't like,
Correct.
what you need, what you don't need. People's needs change for sure.
We had to really figure out very quickly, number one, how to manage our current employees and staff remotely. Number two, how to handle this big influx of business with hiring. And then number three, how to identify our systems well enough that we could scale appropriately. So this is the big external disruption.
Yeah,
that
this is
happened
what,
with us.
I mean, there's a lot of them. It
Yes.
happens. It happens. Okay. So now I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about Third Avenue. I don't know how many times I have to click that. Clearly, I've practiced a lot. So Third Avenue Events, we are a third-party event planning firm. We're a woman-owned business, and we went into business in 2014. I do have a partner, not my spouse. Kristen Hems is my business partner, and we've known each other for almost 7 years now, and then been in business. We just celebrated our 6th anniversary, which is very exciting. We're a small team with a big reach, so we're small and nimble, focused very much on the attendee experience and what you get as an attendee versus just what the client wants as a company who's putting on the event. We pride ourselves that we are built as an extension of a client team, and then we're also really focused on transparency and planning. So our focus is mostly our extensive experience is mostly in automotive, technology, and then the nonprofit sector. So let's talk a little bit, just in case you guys aren't aware, of how the pandemic affected my business.
I know.
Kristen and I actually were on a site check, got off an airplane, I think on March 10th.
Oh, so right.
So right that we're
Yeah.
down doing a site check in Orlando for an event that was happening at the end of April. Very excited, just going about our business and working towards probably the best pipeline of 2020, the best pipeline since we've been in business.
Yeah.
And then essentially what happened is the world shut down, right? Travel, gathering restrictions, both nationally and state specific, were in a tailspin. So it's like,
100%.
you can't meet, you can't get together, you
fly.
can't fly. Companies were putting up travel restrictions. States were putting up travel restrictions. You can't come to our state, or if you do, you have to quarantine, things of that sort. So we spent the first several weeks canceling and rescheduling client events. And really the whole point was to protect client investments as much as possible.
And your investments. You were paying
and
a
our
ton
investments, right?
of
That's
damage
exactly
control.
what happens. Yep. So then we had to start talking about getting creative. What are we going to do? How do we stay afloat? How do we stay relevant when what we do is essentially against the law?
And taken away.
And that's where we were. And people aren't comfortable traveling, right? Not only can you not, but people are freaking out. And so those are the disruptions that affected us. Basically, we just came to a shutdown, and but we pivoted. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how great it was.
But the cool thing, and like what you need to remind, this whole time internally you are, because I went through it too, where you're really freaking out. You're like, oh my gosh, there's so much out of our control when these two women right here like to be in control. Okay. So when
if you hadn't noticed, I mean, kind of by nature of who we are and what we do professionally, we're type A. So we like control. We like having control. We like being in control.
And not knowing
what's
what was
coming. Yeah.
Okay.
That makes it hard. That makes it hard.
Difficult.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about pivoting. How did you pivot when things got crazy?
Which the pivot, now that I think back and reflect back on the experience, it happened very, very fast. It did not feel fast though. It felt like it was not happening fast enough because it was very reactionary. Again, being type A, I would rather be more proactive.
Yeah.
And then build systems to have this huge influx come. It didn't happen that way. So we were very reactionary, which gave me a ton of anxiety because you want the client experience to be one way. You want things to happen a certain way. So first and foremost, my husband and I sat down and we said, okay, this is going to continue indefinitely
Yep.
for the remainder of this year. Let's figure out one thing that we can control and that can make this experience better for not just ourselves, but also for our employees that we currently have. And so that we can scale without being here in an office training everyone at the same time.
Right.
Technology was huge. Okay, guys, like I don't have to, you know, be Einstein to figure that one out. We had to leverage technology. And for us we use Salesforce. We had to build out and customize Salesforce. I don't know how many entrepreneurs use it it's basically a CRM, client relationship management tool, and had to build it in a way that was customizable for mortgage. In a nutshell, if a mortgage was on an assembly line, there are so many pieces that have to happen at certain times.
Right.
It is very difficult to manage if you don't have technology there to make sure these pieces are happening in an appropriate time frame.
Yep. A workflow. Workflow is super important for you. Yeah.
Workflow has to be managed without having to call, because you're scaling it so much, you can't call to make sure things are happening appropriately. So we had to really rely on technology. Another thing was streamlining as much as we can and as much as possible, all through, again, technology. So we had to create a very secure portal for clients to, instead of if they wanted to walk in and meet us face to face, that wasn't happening anymore.
Right.
So we had to have an online portal, which they could then upload secure information and secure documentation. And I put embrace the fear. It was scary.
Yeah.
It was really scary. And it was also not knowing how long this was going to last. Do we want to hire these next 5 employees that we know we have to? How are we going to onboard them? How are we going to train them? So what we really did was take this time to identify our strongest employees, promote from within. And at a time when everyone in our industry was flourishing pretty much, like because rates were so low,
right,
it was very difficult to find anyone with experience that was looking to make a change at that time. So we decided, since so many people were losing their jobs, particularly in the crossroads, we met some really good people that we hired that were green, that did not have mortgage experience, and basically had them screencast and share and learn and train all remotely, and they're doing great.
That's fantastic. I mean, as entrepreneurs, we have to, I think what you wrote, embrace the fear, is so huge, right? You have to embrace fear, and you have to say, you know what I do is hard anyway.
Yeah.
But this is hard and it's new. It's unprecedented. We don't know. We didn't, I would bet, I mean, we didn't, but I would also bet that 99% of you guys did not live through the 1918 Spanish flu.
No.
So who's really been affected by the smaller kind of pandemics that have happened since then? It's hard. And this has been one that's had just a huge impact. And so being able to say, yes, I'm embracing the fear. Yes, this is hard. How can I look and think outside the box and hire people who are also embracing their own fear? Right. They don't have a job. They don't know what to do. They're in an industry that maybe, like live events, is shut down.
Correct.
What do you do? And so giving, I think, people the opportunity, I think that's a huge pivot that you guys did. And I think it's a huge way for you to get back to the community, is to be able to say, hey, you know what? We'll teach you how to do it. We just need somebody with the right attitude.
Correct. The right attitude, right skill set. And they just was very eager to learn, because we were 100% coached, and everyone has mentors, or everyone should have mentors. We have mentors in this industry, and they were very, very against hiring anyone that didn't have experience, because of how quickly you have to ramp up and be a valuable employee. But I think honestly, I think we're going to implement this going forward. I like
That's great. So let's also talk really fast about your technology, because I think it's really important also to know you're someone that uses systems. I mean, that's your life.
I have to. Yeah. And I think that way.
Right.
Like, I want something, we use the acronym SWEAT, same way every time. Like, it has to happen the same way every time. And if you don't have technology there to implement those checks, the workflows, and allow us to manage from afar without micromanaging, to be able to see, okay, who's an efficient employee, who is doing what they're supposed to be doing every day, who is fulfilling their tasks, you can assign them. It was a lot to build out, but we had to do it pretty quickly, and it was very expensive. It was a big investment.
But it was also, I mean, that's kind of a silver lining, right? Is now you have something like this already in place that you don't have to spend time on moving forward. And so as
very much
the economy comes back, and as people get more comfortable, and as rates maybe stay low, it's easier to continue to kind of sweat through the process, right?
Yeah. Look at that pun on words. See? I love her.
Look at us. We're learning new things all the time. Awesome. Okay. And then talk us a little bit about your green employees. So you hired people who didn't have mortgage experience. Are they still with you?
they're still with me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're rocking it out, right?
Yeah, we had 100% growth. Which
That's
is crazy.
perfect.
So we doubled not only just the business that was coming in, but also the number of employees that we were managing, which
Mhm.
so was great. They're still with us. I would like to think that they're happy and that they're enjoying what they're doing. They say that, which
Yep. And they've
Is it-
probably been
yeah.
able to kind of give back in terms of input on the onboarding process and things of
Yeah.
that sort, so that as you continue to hire new people, you know what's super important, what has to
Correct.
be addressed, what things are do or die on day one versus what can wait till maybe day 10.
how to prioritize. I think that's,
Yeah.
it's really, it's
That's a
it's
better
really
way to
big
say
s-
it.
Really big,
Mhm.
a really skill that you have to learn as a new employee. The other thing is in service-based industries,
Mhm.
it is very difficult to scale you.
It is.
And we've had long conversations about this. And I think there are many entrepreneurs that are probably in this session right now that are like, okay, how can you scale the experience that someone has with me?
Right.
Systems have helped me with that. What are the little touches that I do? What are the check-in conversations that
Mhm.
I have?
Mhm.
What are the handwritten notes that we might send? What are the little things that make us less of a big bank, big box type of entity and more of that local,
Right.
hey, this is what makes us different. Not only do we have the same rates, but it just makes the experience a little bit better.
Right.
Because let's face it, everyone wants the house. No one wants the mortgage.
Right.
Like the mortgage is like the icky.
I mean, I think at this point we would say if we were in the same room with you guys, we'd be like, so who's in the service industry?
Yeah.
And have you raise all your hands, because I would bet that you're all dealing with the same thing.
Mhm.
That scalability is hard. And I know that there's other sessions on that end that we are not going to
Yeah,
talk
you
about
are
this,
not the
but we
most
recognize that
efficient.
it's an issue.
Correct. And how we did it. And it
Uh,
was very difficult, particularly with it being remote. That was one of the biggest struggles.
That's
Because it's
not
very-
everybody can work remotely.
We have a big old table back there. The best times that we build out systems is when everyone's in a room, everyone has a part in it. It's very different when it's on a Zoom call.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. My team spent several years, the first 5 years of our existence, working remotely. And so we would gather at coffee shops or even come places like to Adriana's big table and sit around and say, these are the things we need to do together. And we just took on office space. And I'll be honest, we have a huge living room with a couch and pub tables and chairs and a beanbag that we sit in all the time, because we have to spend that time together,
Collaborate.
because talking is so important. Like, it's just so important. Okay, we've digressed a little bit, but now I'm going to tell you guys.
Sorry. This is what happens with me.
It's kind
know.
of, I mean, it's kind of what happens.
It makes it
with
a real
us.
presentation, you know?
That's true. That's true. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the things that we've done to pivot. Or better yet, what's a good question is, hey, Annie, as you are managing events, what on earth are you doing to still stay in business? Which I feel like is a really good question, and one that we asked ourselves a lot after the first 2 months. Because quite frankly, we spent the first 2 months doing what I said before.
Damage control.
It was damage control. It was moving people. And I cannot tell you how many times I used the phrase, I do not have a crystal ball. Because clients would say, hey, can we move to September? I don't know. I don't know.
See,
And so I think that's
and
hard.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, because
No,
as the
go ahead.
general consumer, or as someone that didn't understand how your industry works, I had no idea that you had these things booked out 1 year, 2 year,
Yeah.
and with massive deposits down. When I'm
Right.
talking about massive deposits, I'm like, oh my God, that's so much money
Yeah.
for that hotel venue that you needed the entire
mean,
hotel.
It takes a lot.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time. So after we got through that, we thought, okay, we've rescheduled or we've canceled. I am happy to say, and we take great pride in this, that none of our clients lost any money during that. They've all been either rescheduled or received credits or got money back because they chose to just cancel. So thank goodness for good hotel partners. Partners in general, you just can't say enough in the events industry. But we said, how are we going to stay in front of these people? How are we going to stay
relevant,
connected with
yeah.
both clients, with our partners, with prospects, people that we've been working towards? And then now we're all of a sudden, they're like, well, we're not doing anything.
And
How
I
do we
had no
still
idea.
stay in their
Yeah.
inbox, right? So, excuse me, we developed a Good News Friday newsletter. And our general intent was was 3 things, right? So one was to stay positive. One was to maintain and strengthen relationships so that people just knew who we were. And the other one was to just bring a little joy, just a little
Which
bit of joy.
I have to say, I've commented about this newsletter. I read your entire newsletter. And for me to
It's fun.
read an entire email, again, this personality, it takes a lot. The way that you feature, and we're going to have to somehow link one of your newsletters in here.
I don't know. We'll find a
Figure
way. Yeah.
You've got to read one of her newsletters, but she puts like, Annie's pretty hip and pretty cool. Like, I have to tell people that you are pretty hip and pretty cool. So she'll feature these small little local community, businesses, or that one little cookie shop that you turned me on to.
We did.
You focus and feature these little places that you're like, wow, that's a really cool place in Kansas City that I had no idea, or an event that's happening.
Well, one of the things is we did make a New Year's resolution to feature small businesses because we identify as a small business, right? We're not a small business that you would buy a Christmas gift from, but we're still a small business. And so we identify as such. And then we said, you know what? We made a New Year's resolution that we were going to highlight a small business every Friday on our social media. And we've continued that. And it's been a really great opportunity. And it's part of our Good News Friday email. So we always have a business first where we talk about industry news, and that could be any industry. We do spend a lot of time talking about hotels. We talk about airlines. We talk about what cities have restrictions. We have a list where are Americans welcome. And so we talk about that a lot too. But then we also talk about fun stuff. So Christmas gifts, we talk about, I don't know. We talk about all kinds of things. We do talk about events. We talk about virtual tours. Where can I go from my couch?
Yeah.
And then we have coloring pages because everybody loves the color, and it's like that moment of zen, right? And adult coloring is very big right now. So we spend a lot of time every week putting that together so that we can stay in front of people. And we do have a pretty good engagement rate.
I like it.
Which is nice. And that has been one of those positive things that we...
How did you guys come up with the idea? Was that what, in a beanbag chair?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Some other companies do this. And so, when you get a few and they're like, hey, this is what we're thinking. This is what we're thinking. And we were like, we've got to do something. And so that spread a little joy. We also sat and thought a lot about how can we share our logistical expertise with other industries. And when I say that, I mean people who aren't necessarily doing events, but they need somebody who's like regimented process.
Yes.
How can I do this? So we reached out and had a lot of conversations with school districts, right? As school was starting back up at the end of summer to say, hey, do you need assistance? Like, we know how to go into a space and completely transform it or use it as it was not originally intended to make it fit your needs. Is there anything that you need for that? And so we did that a little bit. We also shifted and started kind of talking about gifting, employee recognition, like what do you need to do as a company? And this is 100% one of those situations where Adriana and I were sitting and she was like, can you help me with this? I was like, yeah, we can.
It's like, we need to improve culture. How do we do that?
Yeah. But so going to people, so there are so many companies. And I feel like, during this pandemic, you're either really, really busy or you're not.
Yeah.
And so trying to keep the companies that are really, really busy, stay on top of applauding and recognizing and motivating those employees that are working so hard for them. I think that is so important.
Because
from home,
as a leader, it is very, very difficult to get the rah-rah and to get the motivation and to get that big, this is why we do this and let's hit our goals.
Yeah, for sure. And then we also spent a lot of time collaborating with our industry colleagues. So that means other planning companies, because, we're not all, what am I trying to say? That's competitors.
Yeah.
We're not all competitors. Yeah. And quite frankly, there's a lot
niches
to go around, right?
Yeah.
And so let's help each other stay alive. How are you staying alive? Is there anything we could do to help you? When I say industry colleagues, I also mean hotel partners. I mean production partners. I mean gifting partners. I mean vendors of every single source. I mean, we put all of those on our Good News Friday because you know what? They need joy too. And we want them to know that they're in our thoughts and in our hearts and that we want them to survive. And then we also started a think tank. So in the events industry, there are travel directors, and those are people that all they do, for those of you that don't know what that is, all they do is travel to events and do the work. So they run registration desks, they manage transportation, they might be speaker managers, they might do VIP management, they might manage food and beverage, they'll manage a hotel or a venue or something like that, but that's all they do. They travel to and from each event, work for lots of different or companies, and they make the attendee experience that your attendees are getting at your event world class. And we have a strong network of those people throughout the United States. And so we reached out to them and said, you know what? We're the smartest people here to be able to figure out how to do this safely. How do we do it? And so we held 3 or 4 think tank over Zoom, just going through, like, here's what I heard hotels are doing. Here's what we've seen recently. And then we would just brainstorm ideas, and we would keep each other motivated.
100%. I think, and it's good that everyone had that same mentality of there's more than enough out there for everyone.
Yep.
Let's collaborate.
Yep. We've worked with, I went to a hotel show that happened in September, which was great. And met with a woman who's like, you know what? I'm getting older and I'm probably going to get rid of my business one day. And I haven't yet found a person that I want to collaborate with that potentially could take this over. And we've had continued discussions on that. And so being able to go out there and say, you know what, we're cheering for you. And that's really the angle we took, right? We're cheering for you, clients. We're cheering for you, partners. We're cheering for you, TDs. We're cheering for you, other attendees, other industries. We're cheering for you, attendees, because we want to get you out there too. Like that's the attitude that we took, and it really has helped keep us positive and stay on. Now, I'm a clear pivot, right? Is virtual meetings. Do we do virtual meetings and events? Of course. Is everybody tired of those? Of course not, because we love it here.
And we have so many attendees.
Right.
I mean,
but there's the Zoom fatigue is real, and while it was really big, it's still really big, and it's a great way to get in front of people, but it just depends on what you want. And when your company is focused on the attendee experience as we are, we love that face-to-face. And so if our clients need virtual, then absolutely, we're here for virtual. But when our clients want to go face-to-face, we're here for that too. And then we took time to kind of get our systems in order, right?
yeah.
Organize our files, organize the system, organize our new office, learn a new skill or sharpen a current skill. So we stepped up our social media game. We've stepped up our registration system game. We've stepped up our database game. We're Excel gurus, those kinds of things. And so we've taken the opportunity to say, what systems do we use? What do we typically outsource, and what could we learn and maybe do in-house now?
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of another one of those that's been a silver lining, because we finally had time to stop and say, here are the things that may or may not be broken, but certainly aren't moving as smoothly as they could. And here's how we can make that work. And so we've been blessed and had the opportunity to put some of those things into practice now this fall, with some events coming back and with a few more virtual meetings. And it's been great because, again, we've created this sweat process so that it's we do the same thing every time.
Yeah.
And then we've also done some certifications. So we took a pandemic compliance advisor class. And so now we have what the CDC would ask that each event would have on site is, hey, somebody who knows what's going on. What happens if someone is ill? How do we make attendees feel safe? How do we work with the venue to create an environment of safety and comfort and a place that people want to be? Because ultimately, that's still what we need.
Yeah.
Whether we're virtual or whether we're in person, I want to feel safe. I want to feel welcome as an attendee. And so those are the kinds of things that we've really been doing, which is good.
Yeah.
So I think that's how we've pivoted, which is great. So we wanted to open it up and see if we had any questions for you. So far, it looks like we don't have any. But let's talk about embracing the fear going forward.
Yeah.
So how are you guys going to embrace the fear as you move on towards your next steps?
So our biggest fear right now in our industry, we believe, is how long are these low rates going to last?
Yeah.
Do we continue to staff up to go and get more market share?
Mm-hmm.
Or should we prepare for another pivot where our industry then slows down?
Right.
As a business owner, one of our biggest fears is we never want to have to lay off employees.
Mm-hmm.
We want to build this culture of community, and we're a small business, so we love the family feel.
Mm-hmm.
And we invest a lot of our biggest asset into these employees, which is time.
Yeah.
Time is one of the hardest things that, as entrepreneurs and as business owners, it's the most valuable resource that we have,
mm-hmm.
and takes the most for your employees. So we're kind of in this crossroads where for me, of course, I'm like, let's go, let's hire 20 more, let's build, let's perfect it even further. Let's get multiple locations, things like that. And my counterpart, which makes us not only good partners in life, but also good partners in business, is he's very not that way. He's let's hang on, let's slow down. Let's really look at what that would look like.
Right.
What's our true break even? How much more business do we have to bring in to be able to maintain that many employees? So we're really looking at that. There's some other technology that we would love to invest in with possibly building out an app and things like that, which would, again, be great tools to have, but are very expensive. And are they truly necessary? So the fear, I think there's always fear.
Right.
And it just changes. And the stress just changes.
You're just going to keep going, right? You're just going to keep going.
We always embrace it and we always go through it.
Someday you'll go at 100. Some days you go at 25.
Yes.
Depends on who's driving the bus.
Who's driving
right?
the bus.
Right.
Exactly.
For those of you that are solopreneurs on the on this call, I don't know how you do it.
Oh.
Kristen and I have the same thing where sometimes we go and sometimes we stop, and one of us says, "Let's do this," and the other one says, "Oh, hold on a second." We very much talk about jumping off a cliff. And we're just going to hold hands while we do it.
Yeah.
Because you've got to.
Figure out how to fly on the way down. We'll figure it out.
From an event side, embracing the fear, I think what we are trying to do currently still, as the second wave just comes chopping at our toes and kicking us in the shins while we're already on the ground. I think our plan is to just keep building our bridge.
Yeah.
We've started building a bridge. We started it with the Good News Friday. We started it with the think tank. We've started it with the pivots to other industries. We've started it with the gifting. And what we're going to keep doing is we're just going to keep building that bridge until we get to the other side. Because we know that when the floodgates open, the Zoom fatigue, the pandemic fatigue is real. People want to go.
Yeah.
People want to go places. And companies want to award their employees. And companies want to meet in person, and they want to see their users face to face. And I think when that opens, I think we will be in a position that we're going to have to pivot like you did at the beginning.
I agree.
Embrace a different and a new kind of fear.
And the floodgates will
feet
be
to
open.
the fire. Yeah. Kristen and I are going to grab on hold of each other and jump off the cliff.
That's also
for good. Jump it off for good.
Yeah, this is a good jump.
Right.
This is a and fly and soar.
And fly and fly.
I think I really she touched on it very lightly, but the importance of in this remote environment as a company now that has multiple employees, having the culture maintain positive and keeping that alive is very, very difficult. The struggle is real for that. So to talk about Annie and Kristen on this, it's been eye-opening on the system that you can create to make sure that your employees feel appreciated, to make sure that little things are done and little goals are set and that people are rewarded consistently. Because I think that's the hardest thing in our business as an entrepreneur is to making sure when you set out these systems to make sure that they're consistently executed every time.
Right. And I think you have to say, I think one of the things you have to keep in mind is how are people motivated, right? And so that's how you get into the systems that you use or gifting or things of that sort when you have to think outside the box. And so finding a creative person for that.
And every employee that we bring in, so we were talking about hiring green employees in the beginning. So honestly, in our industry, there isn't really a way to get in. Like you don't go and you don't get a good
There's
degree.
no clear path through college. There's no degree in mortgage.
I really think there should be though. I think it's honestly one of the biggest investments that the general consumer make. That's one of the biggest investments they will ever make in their entire lives.
Right.
Who drops, anywhere from $250 to $1 million on an investment in 30 days.
Right.
Not too many. So my point is with that is we look for good people. We look for talent. We look for people that we can mentor, and we run we call it a DISC profile. It's a Tony Robbins personality profile test where we can basically see, where the driving factors are of your personality, what you enjoy, because there's one thing about finding really good talent. There's making sure, but then there's another skill of making sure that talent is on the right seat within your company because there's very vast personality differences in sales versus fulfillment and things like that.
Yeah.
So for people that do want to get into the mortgage industry, I think one of the ways is to find somebody that you respect in the industry and talk to them, have a conversation. It's really about mentorship and then someone giving you a chance.
And I think that's relevant across a lot of industries. We talk to people all the time, reach out. Kristen and I are both connected to professors at our respective universities where they can send students our way. I have friends who are college advisors who send students our way. And then we just have people in the industry. You know, when you treat the team that you work with as if they're truly your team, whether they work for you 1 week a year or 25 weeks a year or 365 days a year, you know, people talk to each other.
Right.
And so we've developed our TD network and have been able actually even to say for interns or mentors or people who are saying, I just want to know more about events. We're always open to talk to that. Always. I probably get 3 LinkedIn messages a week asking just about more information on the events industry. Right now, my answers are pretty slim. I'll be real honest. I'll be real honest. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
Don't you want to do something else? But I do think that, and you know, I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I'll say that. I'm an accidental entrepreneur in that I just love planning events. I love the process. I love the work. I love the I do. I love that immediate gratification or that instant gratification when you make somebody happy on site and they just are like, thank you.
Or their eyes are open. They're like, oh my gosh. This
Yeah,
is amazing. I know.
It's great.
I can-
And so I call myself an accidental entrepreneur, but you know what? I just love people. And I know people that say that you're like, you don't love people. And I don't love every people, but I do really love helping people find their strengths. I think it's so hard to see your own strengths sometimes. And so having those people in your life or being that person for somebody who's trying to get into any industry, but specifically ours, is being able to let them see what our strengths are and see what they bring to the table. Yeah. Which I think is really important. So
yeah.
Okay, you guys, I think we're almost out of time and we don't have a ton of questions, but we did want to put up our slide to let you know how to get a hold of us in terms of our, how to connect with us. Like so we have social handles. We obviously have websites, all of that kind of stuff. We're on, I think our profiles and stuff are on this session anyway.
Yeah. So network with us. I'm new to the whole virtual networking.
Same.
Yeah, I think it's difficult, but we should make it. I have a goal to reach out to 5 people and just network.
Look at you. See, that's great. I think that's fantastic. Okay, so
I think we're just hanging out. So if you guys want
that's kind of
send us a message or ask any particular questions, as always, feel free. But here's our information.
Yeah, I think you guys can even unmute yourself if you have a question that you didn't want to put in the chat box, but you want to just talk.
Get really brave and show your video.
I mean, you can if you want to, but you don't have to.
No pressure. Just unmute would be fine.
Just an unmute.
No.
That's okay.
It's like a form of like virtual rejection.
To overcome ear or calamity, teamwork is the answer to any
fear.
Oh, questions that can improve teamwork. Oh, to overcome a fear.
Fear.
Yeah, teamwork is the answer. So our team is really open and honest with each other. So we talk about a whole lot of things and we give honest answers. If I say, does this shirt look nice on me? I expect my team to say no. Or you need you need to tech that in.
So yeah, I agree. And I agree to that. We embrace the honesty culture as well. I would like to say that I encourage people to make mistakes. I encourage my team members to make mistakes, particularly with green people in our industry. If we are not making mistakes every day, that means we are not moving forward. We are not learning. However, we always fix that mistake and figure out a way to create something, an adjustment in our system to make sure that mistake doesn't happen again. It's when repeated mistakes happen is when we have a problem. So the teamwork culture is what I'm saying is encourage people to make mistakes. So for me, I had to really, really, really train myself when people come with a question to ask them how they would solve that question first before I would just do it for them or answer.
That's good. That's so great. Our team has a saying that we say on every event is that we will succeed as a team and we will fail as a team. Not one single person stands out. So thanks you guys so much. Really appreciate your time. Hope you have a great night. And I hope that you all already started happy hour.
Yeah. Bye.
See ya.